Here's a hot take for leaders. Burnout isn't always about workload. Sometimes exhaustion doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from staying braced all the time, from leading in a constant state of internal threat, watching for what might go wrong, managing perception, anticipating reactions, holding it all together without ever fully exhaling. On the outside, things might look fine. You're capable, you're effective, you're getting results, but internally, your system never stands down. Today, we're talking about a form of burnout most leaders miss, the kind rooted not in effort, but in dysregulation, and why awareness, not more discipline or productivity, is the real starting point for sustainable leadership. Let's reframe burnout for a moment. Burnout is often framed as a volume problem, too many meetings, too many responsibilities, too much demand. And sometimes that's true, but there's another version that's quieter and more dangerous. Burnout that comes from leading in a constant state of internal threat. This looks like always being on, over monitoring outcomes and reactions, holding tension in your body even when nothing is actively wrong, feeling responsible for everything all the time. Your workload might be reasonable, your calendar might even be under control, but your nervous system never feels safe enough to stand down. So instead of recovering between efforts, you stay braced. That bracing costs energy. Every decision costs more. Every conversation feels heavier than it should. This isn't a motivation problem. It's not a resilience problem. It's an awareness problem. Because we can't regulate what we don't recognize. From a leadership standpoint, chronic internal threat has real consequences, even when performance stays high. In fact, this is where it gets tricky. Many leaders operating from dysregulation are still effective. They hit goals, they solve problems, they carry teams. But it comes at a cost. When your internal system is constantly on alert, decision fatigue increases, emotional bandwidth shrinks, patience erodes, creativity drops. Leadership becomes effortful instead of grounded. This is where liberated leader ecosystem really matters. Your freedom fuel, your inner regulation, self-awareness, and capacity to feel safe in your own leadership determines how much energy you leak just getting through the day. Your freedom engine, your structure, systems, and execution can't compensate forever for an inner world that never rests. When awareness is missing, leaders mistake dysregulation for dedication. They normalize tension. They pride themselves on endurance. And slowly, leadership starts costing more and more because you're operating without internal safety. So let's name this clearly. Here are 3 signs your leadership may be effective, but internally dysregulated. First, you're productive but never relaxed. Even on good days, your body stays tight. You don't fully power down. Rest feels shallow and earned instead of restorative. Second, you're constantly anticipating problems. You scan for what might break, who might react badly, what might fall through. That vigilance feels responsible, but it's exhausting. And third, you feel relief only when things are over. Deadlines passed, projects completed, conversations finished. Instead of steady confidence, you experience leadership in sprints of tension and collapse. None of this means you're doing leadership wrong. It means your nervous system learned that staying braced was safer than relaxing. But this is a trap. When leaders stay dysregulated long enough, they forget another way exists. They assume exhaustion is just the price of leadership, but it's not. So what do you do with this? You start with awareness. Here's a simple check-in you can use daily. Am I responding to what's happening or to what I'm bracing for? That question alone creates space. Another powerful reset, notice where your body is holding tension during leadership moments. Meetings, decisions, conversations. No fixing, no judging, just noticing. Regulation begins when leaders stop pushing through and start listening inward. You don't necessarily need to do less to recover energy. Sometimes you need to stop leading from threat. When internal safety increases, clarity returns, energy stabilizes, leadership gets quieter and stronger. Burnout isn't always about workload. Sometimes it's about never feeling safe enough to stand down. Awareness is the first power skill that changes that. When leaders lead from regulation instead of threat, everything costs less. Decisions get cleaner, and leadership becomes sustainable rather than sacrificial. If this resonated, stay with the playlist. We're building leadership that works on the inside and the outside. I'm Katie Schulke, building badass leaders one power skill at a time.